Look what just arrived, it's the March Scrawlrbox. I'm so excited to get this open, so let's have a look what's inside. Oh, okay, I'm so excited already. I can see the print and it looks absolutely epic. Having a look at the featured artists is honestly one of my favorite parts because you just get to see these absolutely amazing new artists every single month. It's awesome. So the featured artist this month is Hatch, and Hatch is a moniker of a London-based artist and illustrator, Dave Smith. So it's just really a beautiful print. He does amazing artwork. It's so bold and graphic, and I can already tell I'm gonna be really into this box. Okay, so let's see what we've got in the actual box. So here's the sticker. I really love these stickers. And you always get a kind of menu of the items that are in the box, and it gives you basically a retail value price and just gives you a rundown of all of the things which are in the box really. So that's always good to have. So I see some markers, some Triblend by Spectrum Noir, and if you know me then you'll know that I absolutely hate Spectrum Noir. So maybe these will make me rethink my position on Spectrum Noir, but I don't know. I think they're the Triblend ones, which are like the 3 markers in one, so we'll see how that goes. We've also got a Blackliner from, I don't know what this brand is, Molotow 0.4 Blackliner, a Faber Castell eraser, a pencil from Rembrandt, and the candy is a Vimto Tuba. I always forget that you get a candy. And then lastly, it looks like you get just like a pad of high quality, smooth, white, bleed proof paper. It looks really thin. It's only 70 GSM and you can almost see through it, it's so thin. I remember the first time I used a marker paper like this and I was so surprised. I was so surprised that the paper was so thin because I thought surely the markers are going to bleed through this, but this paper is actually specially formulated, so it has a plasticky kind of sealed layer on the back so that the marker doesn't bleed through the paper. Okay, so this is the entire box and I'm pretty happy with this. If you know me, then you know that I really enjoy working with markers and I have lots of fine liners, so this is right up my alley, this is. If you want a more detailed rundown of this, I'll put some links in the description, otherwise we'll just jump right into it. So I've seen these Triblends before. I'm pretty sure it was on a different Scrawlrbox that these were, or maybe it was a different subscription box, but they're basically like 3 pens in one, I think. So let me just open them up and see. So here they are. You basically get 3 pens in one. It says here Antique Pink Blend, AP2, AP3, and AP4. Gold Brown Blend, GB1, GB3, GB5. And then Blue Turquoise shades, BT7, BT8, and BT9. So it's like getting 3 markers in one basically. And it's not just like a normal marker size. I mean, these are really long. Let me just show you. Next to my Ohuhus, they're just like quite a bit longer, and I have done a review on Spectrum Noir markers before, but not these big ones. So if you want to see that, then I'll link that up here, but I'll see what these ones are like. So as you can see, you've got the first one there, the second one here, and the third one on the back of that. So that's where your 3 colors are coming from. And I imagine that they don't hold quite as much ink as, say, another alcohol-based marker, but you do get the 3 colors and they sort of make sure that you've got all the right tones to blend really well together. So I'll swatch these out. So one of the reasons that I didn't like the Spectrum Noir markers the last time I used them was because I didn't think that the ink quality was all that good, and I'm still kind of seeing that drawing with these now. So I'll try and reserve judgment until the end because these colors really are quite nice together, but the ink quality is just not quite up to what I want. It's kind of weird having to swap from one to the other, but oh, I'm being really negative. I can tell I'm being super negative. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've just had such a bad experience with Spectrum Noir in the past, so I'm trying to be really not negative, but I'm kind of being a bitch right now. I think that most of my criticisms for these pens will be best summarized in the video that I already did, because I'll just be repeating myself. You know, they're too chunky to hold, I don't like the nibs, I don't like the ink. So if you're interested in knowing about Spectrum Noir, I would recommend you go and watch this video rather than just watch me say the same shit about these ones. But Yes, I'm trying to be positive, but it is difficult. So there we got the pink. Let's swatch out this one. Oh, damn. Okay, I've just realized that this is also not as amazingly bleed proof as I was hoping it was going to be. I mean, I have other alcohol marker sort of bleed proof paper, but you can put loads and loads and loads of ink on and it won't come through, but this is actually coming through, so that's just a little bit of a shame. I will say that the paper seems to hold the ink like pretty well, and it does do a good job of, you know, sort of keeping it wet so that you can blend it and everything. It's just such a shame that it bleeds onto the paper below. That's really not cool, in my opinion. Now the turquoise. So this pencil is just an HB pencil. It's just, you know, for general sketching and everything. You can get a really, really light line with it and then erase it. I suppose that's why they included the Faber Castell eraser. I actually really don't like using erasers like this because they leave those, like, you know, sort of eraser shavings all over the place, but it's always good to have an extra eraser lying around. This one does say dust free though, so maybe it doesn't produce those little, you know, eraser shavings that get all over your desk and everything. It's kind of still making them, but I'll accept it for now. I really wanted these pens to change my mind about Spectrum Noir, but they just haven't. It brought back all these memories of how much I hated using them the first time. I just don't like the ink quality. I think it gets really speckly. Like, I'll show you. You can just kind of see that the ink kind of separates and doesn't really stick to some of the fibers of the paper, and that happened last time I tried to test these as well. So I don't think that the ink quality is like super good. The colors are like fine, they're actually quite nice, especially these three together, like all of them. They've chosen a really nice sort of range and they blend well together. Like, you know, they're all right. I just don't think the ink quality is very nice. I don't think that they're very nice to hold and to use because they're so thick. It's really awkward that these are so long and that when you actually use the pen, they're just quite short, and I'm just not very happy so far. So it says here that the retail value for these pens is £350 each. That's a little bit more than a Winsor & Newton alcohol marker, but it's still less than a Copic, I'm pretty sure. But you'd hope it would be because, again, you get kind of smaller pens. You do get three different colours, but, you know, I don't think it's worth it, personally. But we'll see how they work in an actual drawing and see if they can redeem themselves that way. Otherwise, we've also got the Molotow Blackliner pen, and you know, it works like any black liner. Oh, I didn't actually try if it bleeds. Let's have a look. Yeah, so it looks like it's nice and waterproof and doesn't lift off when you put the alcohol marker over it, even if you scrub really hard. So that's actually quite a nice pen. I do quite like this. And then obviously you've got the HB pencil and the eraser, so that means that we can do some drawing. So yeah. SCRAWLRbox has always come with the SCRAWLR challenge. I don't always do them, but you know, sometimes it's good if you don't know what to draw, get some inspiration from this. The word is Imaginarium, a place dedicated to imagination. Okay, well that's not really sparking any creativity in me, but I'm sure we'll figure something out. Other than that, let's actually get to drawing something. Okay, so I think the way I'm going to play this is just by having this sort of imaginary space or land where just all these creatures and all these things kind of exist and you can access it through your imagination or something. Anyway, that's the way I'm going with this. I'm actually taking heavy inspiration from some of my Inktober works from last year. I have a flip through if you want to see that. It's up in the corner here, but if you do watch that, then you'll see quite a few of those themes are going to be replicated through to this drawing. Writing things down like this just really helps me get things out on the paper, and it starts the sort of creative process. If you just start writing, just whatever you can think of, then that will really help you with the next step, which is actually the sketching, sort of ideas developing process. So I'm gonna need some references here. I don't think I remember how to draw a skull just by heart. So the purpose of me drawing these out is, again, just to sort of get the ideas out on the page, start thinking, start brainstorming, and seeing what I come up with and everything. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. I'm not really fleshing anything out completely. I'm just kind of sketching all these elements and seeing if anything comes to mind. So I was thinking maybe I could have like crystals coming out of the raven's skull and the cat's skull and everything. And again, while I'm doing this, I'm kind of keeping in mind that I want this piece, this finished piece, to kind of be a little bit more doodly looking, a little bit more cartoony. It's gonna obviously only have these 3 colors, so I need to sort of think about how I might use those 3 in relation to all these elements, so that I'm just keeping that in mind as I draw. So something I do quite a lot when I'm trying to draw, especially animals, is do this kind of, I sort of carve out the animal using these shapes, especially if you have no idea how to draw the subject. It does kind of help to sort of visualize it in these more basic shapes, and then you can start to begin to carve out the actual animal or the actual object that you're trying to, you know, recreate. It's literally a duck. How am I drawing a duck? Okay, it looks like a duck with some horse legs, but we're kind of getting somewhere. Weird. It kind of looks like this horse has human legs. I'm starting to think maybe it's not such a good idea that I put a Pegasus in, because I haven't even got to the wings part yet. Oh my fucking god. Just keep working it and it might come together eventually. Let's try add some wings in here. I'm actually quite scared of horses in real life. Okay, I'm actually kind of pleased with that. Like, it's not the best, but it does look like a Pegasus. So it just goes to show, if you just keep, you know, keep at it, keep carving it out, you'll get there eventually. Just don't give up too soon. I might give that a little shade just to be like, hey, don't forget me, put me in the final drawing. Deer are just quite beautiful creatures, really. I hate this eraser. You can see I'm getting this shaving shit all over my desk. I hate that so much. I don't have much space left to do this, but I'm basically just going to draw a little flower. I've never been all that good at drawing flowers. If you have a reference, then it makes it easier. Okay, so we're sort of running out of space here, but I think I've got enough ideas for the time being to move forward with, and hopefully I can fit everything into this drawing. So I'm just going to go around the ones that I especially want to put in with a colour, so that I just know that those are the key elements. I'm still kind of in my head trying to come up with an idea of what I actually want this to look like, so that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to have to draw up a bunch of thumbnails about, you know, how to incorporate all these elements together. I'm going to have to do that before I start with the actual drawing, because if I just jump right into it, I'm going to put all these pieces on the paper and it's not going to look any kind of refined or thought out or anything. And also with this next step with thumbnailing, I'm able to sort of test out the colors a little bit, test out the supplies and how I'm going to use them. If you're quite familiar with your medium, then you might, you know, not need to do that step of coloring in and figuring it all out, but because I've never used these before, it's probably a good idea to do a couple of, you know, test runs before I actually get into the proper drawing. So it's yeah, it's time to move on to the actual thumbnailing part. I really do like these skulls that I've drawn here, so I think I'll make them kind of like a main element. So maybe this one can be the raven one, and perhaps we'll have some mountains in the back there. Or I could make it like kind of like a floating hill like we've got here. And I kind of thought that I wanted crystals coming out of the eyes of these skulls here, so I'm just gonna draw some literal just spikes. This is all I'm looking for at this stage, just a very, very rough kind of thumbnail. This process takes time. You're gonna do each step to get to a point where you've got a really well-defined piece. I actually really like this first thumbnail, but it's always a good idea to keep working them in case, you know, you find something else or you draw an element in one of them which you want to add or something like that. So almost always draw 3 thumbnails, if not more. And if these ones don't work, I just keep going and building until I find one that I like. Okay, I'm gonna have them floating over like a void basically. So if we have some sort of more geometric shapes over here. Trust your own judgment. Trust that you are gonna be able to make a really good decision, especially if you're a seasoned artist. You'll already know those sort of key themes and key elements of art, like reflection and rotation and balance and everything like that. So just, you know, trust yourself that you'll be able to come up with a really good idea. Okay, I really do like this floating island kind of a thing, so I'm gonna try and continue that into this one here. And the crystals, I love the idea of the crystals coming out of the eyes. Otherwise they're just gonna be sort of like randomly floating around and it won't make much sense. I do want the crystals in there, but I don't want them just to be like, you know, kind of here or whatever in the sky, so I'm gonna just put them in those skulls' eyes. So that's an element that I definitely want. I'm still really feeling this one as a primary kind of candidate. Maybe I'll do one more. And I'll try not to make the skulls the main feature this time. Okay, so this one's not like terrible. It's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit not well thought out, but it's also kind of cool in a different way. So this just goes to show that it's not a terrible idea to keep doing thumbnails and keep trying and just sort of developing your ideas, because you might end up with something better. Feeling a little bit overwhelmed by everything in the picture. But even if I look at this, you can see there's a lot going on in here. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different characters and kind of objects and everything. But it is kind of all consistent. There's a good flow. It looks thought out. So that's the kind of idea that you want to go for. You don't want everything to look really random and stuff. It's kind of chaotic, but in a balanced sort of way. So I'm just going to ink this in really quickly so I can kind of see what we're working with, maybe chuck some colour in and be really certain about what I'm drawing before I like jump right into the last sketch. Just going to ink it in really roughly, just getting those shapes in there so I can kind of see what we're working with. Basically, this is what we're working with. We'll probably use the goldy brown blend as the skull colour, I imagine. Probably make these Pegasi pink. But then really my issue is that we've got all three of these colours right next to this floating mountain. So we don't have much option for the mountains and the sort of island behind it, because any way you do it, you're gonna be right next to a colour which already exists. So I really just want to get onto the finished result. So I think I am going to draw something very, very similar to this, if not exactly this. And I think I'll just figure out the colours as I go. Okay, so I'm going to do the final illustration on this piece of marker card that I have, because it's just a little bit firmer as a piece of paper and it holds the ink better. It's got this plastic layer on the back which stops the ink from bleeding through, and you know, this paper just seems to not take very kindly to having even graphite on it. So I'm going to use this for the final illustration, but I'm still going to keep it A5 just to be consistent. So next thing to do is just to start sketching out the final illustration. Okay, so we're at the point where I'm going to use my kneaded eraser. I don't care that it didn't come in the box. I've been dying to use this the entire time, but I'm just going to roll it gently over this entire drawing and pick up some of the graphite, hopefully erase some of the lighter lines, and the darker ones will have been left, and then I can properly refine the sketch, and after that I'll ink it and colour it in. Okay, so I've more or less finished the outlines here, but I just cannot shake the feeling that something's just sort of missing. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of add these shapes and fill them in with black and try and fill in some of this white space. And I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. I am a little bit apprehensive, which generally means that it's going to turn out a bit but we'll see how it goes. So that's what I'm going to do next, and then I can get onto colouring. Okay, so now it's time to finally add color, and I'm a little bit nervous because I'm not in love with this piece, but hopefully a little bit of color can bring it back, so let's get right into that. God, I hate these markers so much. Okay, so overall, I'm not thrilled with this piece. It's just kind of confused, but to be fair, I wasn't too inspired from the get-go, and you know, it is fine. So my favorite item from this box was definitely this Molotow Blackliner. One of the biggest issues that I have with blackliners is that I push very hard on the paper when I'm drawing, and I tend to bend the nib a bit, especially with these smaller, you know, like 4mm, 3mm, 2mm nibs. But this nib felt indestructible. It just is really, really firm, and the ink dries super, super quickly. It's virtually impossible to smudge with the markers after it's dry. It was just a really good liner. And my least favorite tool from this box was definitely the markers, specifically the pink one, but just definitely all of them for sure. They're just so clunky. The ink isn't amazing. They're kind of gimmicky. I find the three-tone thing a little bit weird. They just feel wrong to hold, and I feel like they wouldn't have that much ink in them because each section is just so small. I was just really, really hoping that they would redeem themselves in my eyes, but no, I'm still really, really disappointed. Obviously, that's not SCRAWLRbox's fault. I just think that there are way better tools out there for a much lower price than Spectrum Noir. Even Ohuhu markers, I feel, are much, much higher quality, and they are so much cheaper. So if you want my advice, go buy yourself some Ohuhu markers and stay away from Spectrum Noir. Oh my god, they're gonna hate me. They're gonna like sue me or something. Thank you so much for watching. For more information about the tools, SCRAWLRbox, the featured artist of the month, Hatch, and also some more honourable mentions, check out the description box down below, and for a link to my previous Spectrum Noir review, click the eye in the corner. Kia ora everyone, have a wonderful evening, and I will see you next week. Bye!